All right, here we go.
Now you got number 3 is Joe.
Over there, so people at home will be able to see the plans that they're looking at.
It's gonna be great.
There's really big here.
Oh, it's short, 4 items.
Where are you, which one are you broadcasting, Tony?
Right from here again tonight.
He's the one.
Block. Oh, we get someone coming to talk about that, huh? This gentleman here.
Will be the one at 7, I can't tell.
It's not
What's up,
7
Bernie?
yet.
Yeah.
Oh, you're not recording here? Oh, she's recording.
You coming every week now?
Oh, yeah, 700,000.
What's that? Oh.
Here, ready?
Yep.
Just email her.
Okay.
Go on here.
Being the hour of 7 o'clock, we'll open the meeting of February 12th. Before I open the meeting, I'm going to ask for a moment of silence for Richard H. Pellerin. Richard was a member of the Oxford Memorial Honor Guard, who passed away unexpectedly about a week or so ago. He was a big contributor to the veterans organizations in town, and in particular the Oxford Memorial Honor Guard. Thank you. First item on the agenda is the Community Development Block Grant, Oxford Dudley Joint Grant Application presented by Ryan Lundigan, Associate Planner at CMRPC. Come forward, please. Good evening.
Good evening.
Mr. Manager, did you want
Yeah,
to
I'll
open it up?
introduce Ryan. I attended a meeting at CMRPC not long ago and learned that they were getting into the grant writing business. I think that's a fair way to express it. It's something that we had done in the past and we had more staff, but we don't have that staff. And I saw this as an opportunity. Ryan presented to me that there is a grant available for housing rehabilitation. However, the grant making agencies are looking more favorably on regional or joint applications. Witness the sewer project we did in southwest Oxford, where we joined in with Webster and Dudley. In this case, when we talked about it, I said, well, we had done it in the past where we did some housing rehabilitation. I said, but where I really need some work is the housing authority buildings. I think Selectmen Lamarche had brought that problem up at several months ago. And we talked to the housing authority and they were in agreement. Dudley, it turns out, is doing the same thing, targeting housing authority buildings. So I'll turn it over to Ryan to give us the details. If we're successful, he will be doing the grant administration, which is funded by the grant. And so all we'll see is the product of the work.
Good.
Okay.
Good?
Yes. So after Joe and I had spoken, CMRPC went to work gathering information about both Oxford and Dudley to put together a joint application. It's a regional application, so there's, as Joe explained, bonus points, which makes you more favorable in the eyes of Department of Housing and Community Development. One of the requirements of this grant application is a community development strategy. I believe it's in your packets this evening. And it's a long-term and short-term plan that has goals for which Oxford may or may not be striving towards in the future, but most importantly, the activities that we're pursuing within the Community Development Block Grant. The first activity that we're looking at is housing rehabilitation. Most specifically in the town, we have a target area which is required by the government to look at low and moderate income. So it's specifically for families of low and moderate income. We're looking at having 20 units as a goal for rehabilitation spread out between Oxford and Dudley. The total grant would probably be about $700,000 that we'd be applying for. Each unit roughly $23,500 is an estimate. for each unit to be rehabbed. In addition to housing rehabilitation, we're looking at first-time home buying services. This would entail education services, so we would have maybe 3 educational sessions of approximately 45 participants, and showing them exactly how to purchase a home and how to go about getting a mortgage. In addition to that, there would be aid available up to $5,000 for a down payment as well. So it's a really great opportunity for the town to help their low and moderate income residents, and to also increase the quality of housing stock within the community.
Good. We did have a community development block grant in town many years ago, and we had targeted certain areas within the community similar to this. Matter of fact, I believe the beginning of Charlton Street was targeted, the homes behind the subway. I think 3 or 4 of those homes were projects that were undertaken. Also Water Street, I believe, Joe, right? In addition to that, there were a number of homes throughout the community that residents could apply for based on their income. Now, I don't know, does this basically work the same way?
That's correct. So if funded, the program would be run by CMRPC through the town. So a member of the community would like to apply for housing rehabilitation, for example, replacing windows. They would come into the town, fill out an application. It would then be reviewed for many different things, and specifically income is the biggest thing. Proof of income, and if they were to own their home for 15 years, it would be considered debt forgiveness. So they would not need to pay back the estimated $23,500 that was given to them. So it's a great opportunity.
Great program.
Yes.
Board members? Yes.
You're saying low to moderate income. What are you talking? What are the numbers?
So normally when you're talking low to moderate income, it's 80% of median household income.
Which for Oxford would be?
Which for Oxford would be under, I believe it's 40,000,
Under 40,
under 40?
which would put the means at 50.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Any other questions?
Sure,
Manager?
I'm all set. You need anything else?
just one question.
Yes.
Who would decide who gets the grants? What
The,
would it be, a board? Is there a board that's gonna be put together, or is it gonna be CMRPC, or who decides
this,
the applications?
the CDBG program is overseen by Department of Housing and Community Development. They receive the applications.
Okay, there being no further questions, we'd like to thank you for coming in and sharing with us this outstanding program. We hope we get the grant, and I'm sure that Dudley feels the same way we do, because it's a joint grant. Matter of fact, I think there was an article in the paper just recently that T&G did about Dudley, and Dudley's enthusiasm about this particular project. So we wish you the best of luck.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, you've included a document here which is the plan?
Yes, that is
and-
correct.
And you need to have it, at the last page, Chairman said, it has a signature line for you. So I would request that the board consider adopting this as described by Mr. Lundergan, and authorizing the chairman to sign so we can make that part of our grant application?
Yes, in addition to that, when this grant is to be submitted on Friday, it would need to be looked over by a member of the staff. I would assume it'd be Joe.
Yeah?
There would need to be some permission by the board, the chief elected official, for Joe to look this over and give a written consent for CMRPC to submit it.
I think that's basically this.
Okay, yes.
Okay,
So,
then I would entertain a motion that the board allow the chairman to sign the appropriate documentation to apply for the grant as proposed.
I'll make that motion.
A second?
Motion has been moved and seconded. Discussion? There being none, I'll call for the vote.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
We have a question on the discussion?
How was Joe, to you in that day? What do you need from the housing authority?
I'll let you know,
Okay,
okay? I'll let you know in detail later,
okay, all right.
because I don't know yet.
All right, then we'll call for the vote.
Yes.
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 Yes, let the record show, 4 in the affirmative, 1 absent,
You have
motion
that?
carries. Thank you.
Have it now?
Yes.
Okay, bring it up. Doesn't work.
So this is the joint application, but also I can send you over the signature copy,
Yeah, what is this?
the community development strategy.
You don't have that with?
That's your copy right there. It's just
It's in the to be signed folder.
Right, there's
Oh,
one
it is in the
to be
to be
signed,
signed
Yes,
folder.
it is.
And I need Chairman Sad to sign this as well?
Yes,
Okay.
that's to enter into a joint
Okay.
agreement with,
Very good, thank you.
thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Bless you. Thank you.
Okay, the next item on the agenda, Representative Ryan Fatman. Welcome.
I can see your card.
Thank you,
Just
Mr.
wherever you wanna
Chairman.
be.
I was motioned to move over this way.
Yeah,
or
the
a little bit
camera's not
earlier.
working here.
Oh, it's not working?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the one that's,
We want to make sure we get you on,
just in time, we're replacing the equipment.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much for having me before you tonight. It's my pleasure to be here, and I wanted to come formally and introduce myself. On January the 2nd of this year, I became the official state representative for the town of Oxford in precincts 1 and 4, the southern section. And I had a great opportunity for several months to go around and introduce myself during the campaign to residents. Met some of you along the way, or your daughters, or whoever it may be, family members and neighbors. Enjoyed it greatly. Enjoyed participating in the 300th kickoff for the town of Oxford, and looking forward to being more involved in that. And also just wanted to present a few topics that I know have been near and dear to this board, as well as myself. I actually served 5 years on the Sutton Board of Selectmen, so I, to a degree, sat exactly where you sit right now a few years back, and felt the frustrations of this position daily. And by no means think it's an easy position, because, in my opinion, the state of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts does not treat cities and towns the way it should. That starts with local aid, along with a host of other issues. But it's been my priority over the last 2 years and in the coming 2 years to try to do everything that I can to be accountable and responsive to local municipalities, making sure that you get what you need from me, and also that I understand what your needs are, which is why I'm here tonight. I did notice in the last Webster Times, as well as the Webster Patriot, that there was some concern about the governor's housing proposal with that local housing authorities. I see my friend Ernie over here, and he's had my ear for a good amount of time. He serves you well on the housing authority, as well as one of the tenants, Bob Shedd, who I became pretty friendly with over the course of the campaign. And I too have come to study the governor's proposal, and adamantly opposed to it. I think that it's a centralized plan that is well intentioned, but has a lot of pitfalls along the way. And one of the most important to me is the local control component of that. I had the opportunity to actually go out and knock on some doors down at some of the local housing authorities and talk to people down there, and they were very concerned about their own housing prospects, and whether the quality of their housing was going to change. I know that Elizabeth does a great job down there, and I know that she is also adamantly opposed to the governor's housing proposal. I have co-sponsored 3 different alternative proposals that Narrow, a housing organization, has put forward, one of which is probably the most prominent, which received 79 co-sponsors between the House and Senate. It's something that I think we can work towards. It maintains local control, but it also puts in some benchmarks where there's accountability in place. And a lot of the local housing authorities, I believe every single which in my district, have supported this approach, and I think it's a good one to take. Another thing that has been quite popular lately is talk about tax revenue. And I'm not sure it's popular amongst the public as it is maybe amongst Beacon Hill, but there's been a lot of talk. The governor had put it into his State of the State address about a month ago that he was looking forward to trying to increase the income tax, possibly decreasing the sales tax. And in his budget that he put forward about a week and a half ago, he also outlined a bunch of individual tax deductions that he wanted to eliminate in also increasing fees, looking at increased sales taxes on candy, on soda, and whatnot. I've had a mantra for the last year, and we'll continue that mantra. I believe Massachusetts needs reform before revenue. And actually, I'd adjust that just a bit to say reform, no revenue. We need to look at reforming our state government, making sure it works as efficiently as possible. I've started working on identifying those aspects. We had a supplemental budget last week on Wednesday, was about $84 million for fiscal year 2013. And one of the proposals that I put forward was an amendment to basically create some accountability at the Department of Transitional Assistance. Department of Transitional Assistance is a great program. They run, some of the food benefits for people who are less fortunate, housing, some benefits for EBT, and all those things are laudable programs, but there's also been exposed a lot of abuse. And so cutting out the abuse is exactly where I'd like to concentrate some of that reform on. For example, $91 million was exposed as being sent to people out of state per year. Over the course of a decade, that's quite a bit of money, almost $1 billion. And it's something that I think we need to stop doing. I also think we need to encourage reapplication for EBT benefits, very much like the standard we have for licensure for driving. When your license expires, you have to go to the RMV or DMV or online and reapply for that, so you have the privilege of driving. Well, I think it would be quite commonsensical to do the same thing for the EBT program and make people reapply, and people who need it would be encouraged and accepted, and people who no longer need it can move on and hopefully become self-sustaining members of society. I do believe we need to help people, but I also think that we need to do so in an efficient and responsible way, and making sure that people help themselves is also something that I encourage. And another part of that local supplemental budget that I was discussing that we just took up had something directly impactful for cities and towns across the Commonwealth. The governor had announced back in late December, early January, that the government was going to have a revenue shortfall and that he was going to start implementing 9C cuts. 9C cuts are basically the governor's unilateral authority to start taking an axe to the budget. In order to cut any local aid, he has to receive approval from the legislature, things like Chapter 70, Chapter 90, things like local aid, lottery, UGGA funds. And in that supplemental budget, we voted against allowing the governor to cut any more additional local aid funds. It's something that I think is a step in the right direction, something that we should try to protect moving forward. Unfortunately, under his own discretion, he was already able to cut about $38 million in local aid funding, and that included the circuit breaker money, which would affect the town of Oxford. Some of the other things wouldn't necessarily affect the town of Oxford, as it would some of the other schools in my district and some of the other towns, but there was also things like road assistance programs for potholes and stuff like that, which would affect Oxford if they'd be privy to that money. So that's a brief update. I'm happy to take any questions that you may have and discuss anything further in detail, but thank you for having me here tonight and taking a few minutes to listen.
Board members have any comment? Yes.
Thank you. Well, Ryan, thank you. It sounds very good what you're talking about to me as a representative of this board and the people of this town. And I'm probably one of those guys that has been brought bringing up some of those comments about our governor, because it does bother me a lot. I hear from people in the town when I talk to them, when you see the shortfall, like in our welfare system, that people that don't even exist are getting welfare checks, and then he wants more money out of the general citizen that is having a very hard time struggling, as you mentioned. It's nice to hear there's somebody up there that's possibly working on our behalf. Having talked to you, knowing you from the way I've talked to you and met you, I feel very confident that you're there working hard for us, and I just want to thank you and say keep up the good work.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yes. Question?
All right, questions?
Comment?
Yeah, maybe a couple comments. Thanks for coming in. I know that you've knocked on my door a couple times and.
That's your daughter.
But you know what? I'm never around, I guess. But, no, Ryan, I've watched you. I've looked at your record. I've seen the bills that you've sponsored, quite a few, actually, for someone so new. I mean, you probably sponsored more bills than some of the legislators that have been in there for years. And that's refreshing to see that you've worked hard to get your position, and you're continuing to work hard, and that's important. And you'll find that the people of Oxford are fair, but they're tough, and they expect a lot from their representatives. And based upon your record and everything that you've done, I think Oxford's in good hands, with you, and I appreciate you coming in.
Thank you very much.
Still amount?
No, I don't need to say anything to him publicly. We talk. Hell, I know the guy's going to do what he's going to do. He's going to do what he can do. Unfortunately, you're in a very minority position with your party in Boston. I wish I could listen to people on the other side of the aisle talk the same way as you. Unfortunately, until the tides change, we're stuck. The Department of Transitional Assistance, I mean, you couldn't have brought that up to a better individual than John said. I mean, he's got years in there, retired from there. I'm sure John will make himself available to you if you have questions. John, I know you did that forever and a day. It's tough, and you're a small group, and you're in your second term, and your first term representing Oxford. I don't disagree with what Mike said. I feel confident in having you there. I pushed for you, because I know you're going to do the job that you said you were going to do. Just keep on, that's it.
Thank you.
Oh, I would also like to make a couple of comments. First of all, I'm happy to hear that you're on the same page that we are with our housing authorities. I think that we need all the support that we can get so that we can maintain our local control. Secondly, I like hearing what you're saying about the EBT program with the Department of Transitional Assistance. As you may or may not know, I was the area director for over 25 years in southern Worcester County, so I'm well aware of how that system works and the possible abuses in it. So it's high time that something be done. I'd also like to see in that regard is to probably go more towards controlling that system with using fingerprint imagery, so that whenever that card is used, you have an actual image of the person that's supposed to be using it.
Yeah.
I don't know what it would cost to implement that, but I believe that there were several states looking into it back when I was involved. I don't know how far along that's come, but more power to you. It's a hefty job.
Yeah. Chairman Satt, actually, if I may interject very briefly, that's actually one of the bills that I did file to put a photo identification on an EBT card, and it's, as you know, the Department of Transitional Assistance does yeoman's work to help a lot of people of the Commonwealth, and there's a few people out there who just aren't going to play ball and, abuse the system. And unfortunately, a lot of times it costs a lot of money when they do it because they find some way to scheme and essentially steal. And so I think that one of the ways we can help restore integrity to an otherwise good program is by implementing certain safeguards, and that's one of them. The re-application process is another one of those, and also a restriction on some of the cash benefits that people gain access to.
Well, good luck to you in that.
Thank you.
Also, and finally, the governor's budget. If there's anything in there that really bothers me, it's his proposal to advance and expand transportation within the Commonwealth. I just think it's totally ludicrous. The amount of money that he is requesting for transportation is just outrageous and unconscionable. I think that we ought to maintain the system we have. Upgrade it, make it more modern, maintain what we have before you go and propose to expand. He wants to expand to New Bedford, Fall River, Springfield, New York. Come on. These are bad times here. We're all feeling the pinch. Now, if you're a homeowner, you're not going to put an addition on your home when your roof is leaking. You're going to take care of the necessities first.
Right.
You don't expand when you don't have the money in the how to do it. And I hope that you take a good hard look at that, and your colleagues do. You know, spend what you have to on what we have. Forget about the expansion now. This is not the time to expand and use taxpayers' dollars for that when people are scraping to get by from day to day. It's just the wrong time. I applaud him for his ingenuity and his ability to want to do something, but it's not the time.
Yeah.
That's all. It's just not the time. So whatever you can do in that regard, I certainly would support.
I appreciate the comments, and I would say the governor, in working with him, he's a very personable individual, a guy who can, charm anybody, really. And, I'm just hoping that people aren't charmed so much that they buy into some of the things he's proposing. I don't agree with a lot of his agenda. There are some things that I think that he's put forward that are good. But on the transportation front, the idea that Massachusetts can stomach a nearly $2 billion tax increase when our economy, unlike the nation's, is seeing our unemployment rise and seeing tax revenues fall, that to me is not a state heading in the right direction. And if you'd like to see it happen more quickly, where the economy precipitously tanks, raise taxes by $2 billion. Not only that, but some of the tax deductions have been very concerning that he wants to get rid of. Would directly affect families from educational. In Massachusetts, you're allowed to write off the student interest on your loans. Families do that if they're filing dependents, individuals who are going to college. They do that if they're filing as individuals. That's a major amount of money that people depend on, and I don't think it's fair or equitable to allow something like that to happen. The other thing that concerns me greatly is in the year 2000, this question of raising taxes or the income tax was placed to the people of Massachusetts. And I've spent some time going through what they call PD40s in the Secretary of State's office, their election results. And in Oxford, almost 60% of the people voted to roll the income tax back from about 6% down to 5%. It was in response to the temporary tax increase put in place by Governor Dukakis in the late 1990s, the early 1990s, late 1980s. And the Commonwealth overwhelmingly supported this. About 57% of the Commonwealth voted for it. And now we see an increase to increase it again, and we never fully implemented what the people voted on. I am a true believer that we're a people with a government, not the other way around. When people vote, we should implement it, not ignore it. That people should not just only have their voice be heard, it should be heeded and implemented when they vote. And there's nothing more sovereign than a person's vote. People have fought and died for that, and everybody should have a say, and when their say is ignored, that's just not right. So I think that we need to find reform in the state budget. We can find it on EBT reform. I also think we can find it on, making sure we live within our means. I know this board has discussed the immigrant tuition proposal, the executive order that the governor has put forward. And while once again I find that the governor's intentions are well, I think that the implementation and the practicality of the situation is not very well thought out. One example is I think we have to keep the promises we make to people. One of those promises in the 1990s was if you adopt a child in Massachusetts, you will allow that child to go, or the Commonwealth will allow that child to go to any state school tuition free. And the idea behind that was you're taking an individual who's in a bad situation, a young child, taking him off the hands and care of the state and putting him into a loving and caring family that will use its own financial resources to clothe, feed, and take care of that individual, hopefully make them into an active member in society. Well, the governor has promised a lot of families across the Commonwealth that they would receive this tuition-free benefit and fee-free benefit for adopted students, and unfortunately, about a month ago, decided to axe the program. And so you have several students, especially in this town, and also in the town of Oxford, whose parents saved up all the money that they could, knowing that they'd have to pay for room and board when they went away, but all of a sudden have been whacked with anywhere from $12,000 to $25,000 tuition bill. And so I think that if we keep our promises to the people that we make them to, as opposed to trying to start expanding those promises, that should be the first concentration. I think that's more equal and equitable, and I think it should be the focus. The other problem I have is when at a time when we're seeing resources shrink for towns, local aid has been decreased about 30% over the last 8 years. We shouldn't be offering, in-state tuition benefits to try to expand that, because it actually is a cost. We subsidize all in-state tuition. It might not be the exact line item from one budget to another, but it is an expense to the Commonwealth, and so that's something that really concerns me. One thing that I think we can do, which would be positive on the immigration front, is about 300,000 people in Massachusetts are here legally waiting to become United States citizens. And they've been waiting for years. And unfortunately, every year we only process about 3,000 applicants. These people are taxpayers waiting to pay taxes, waiting to buy a house, waiting to become active and involved members of the U.S. dream, the American dream. And they've had to wait for a very long time. I think if you put more concentration on expediting that process, making these people waiting in line get through, the state could do that, and we'd see possibly jobs created, more employment opportunities, and increased wealth for all. So thank you so much. And one last thing. On my way here, I received a phone call that the town of Oxford was accepted for a grant. And I don't have many details on that, but it's for storm water runoff and waste removal. And so that was announced today at 11 o'clock in the Gardner Auditorium at the State House. So
That was, CIC, it's too bad Ryan's gone. He is gone. It's a CMRPC grant. It was another group grant. You might remember it was the phase 2 they expanded it from 13 members to 30 members, a number of towns that are doing this, this grant on stormwater management. It's a quite interesting cooperative effort among all the towns.
Yeah.
Yes, we have.
So we're happy that that's available, happy to help in any way. And I have already...
That's the good part.
Yeah.
The bad part is that grant program was was a 9C cut. So instead of getting $200,000 as we applied for, everybody is cut, and we're getting 115, which is an interesting way to do things, because I don't know if 115 is enough. But we are getting the grant. That's the
Something's
good.
better than nothing, Joe.
Something's better than nothing. If I might, for the young fellow standing to my right, a lot of the things you bring to our attention are executive things, not legislative things. And you are a legislator, and so your job is to make laws. I used this expression the other day, and I'd like to share it with you. People often say things, they mean something, but they don't say it. One of my favorites is, I could care less. Well, that means you care. What you want to say is, I couldn't care less. But we know what they mean. So there's a famous expression, ignorance for code enforcement, law enforcement people, ignorance of the law is no excuse. Well, I worked with a fellow who once said, ignorance is no excuse for a law. Well, I knew what he meant, but what he said is absolutely true. Ignorance is no excuse for a law. Sometimes we need to enforce the laws we have, okay? Ignorance of what happens in the world is no reason to pass a law so you can feel good. Well, we banned large capacity ammunition holding things, whatever they're called, and boy, are we good. all right? It's not gonna help.
Yeah.
That's an ignorant act.
Yeah.
So please, I ask you to think about it.
It's something I wish people did think a lot about, because there's a lot of laws in
$5
the Commonwealth of Massachusetts that simply shouldn't exist.
Yeah, well, maybe that's where you could make a bucket list.
Yeah,
Get
absolutely.
rid of some of
So
them.
they're free.
I appreciate the
Thank you.
advice.
Keeping the cars on.
Thank you so
Thank
much
you
for
very much
having
for
me.
coming
and
in.
for-
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.
And thank you for the opportunity to get on my high horse.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is the town manager's report. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Hopefully, I'll get a good evaluation on this one, too. We have a support letter request. Mr. Roger Bacon has requested the board sign a letter of support for the First Congregational Church of Oxford in their endeavor to seek monies from a grant through the 2013 Janet Mauser Humanities Trust Fund. Pleasure of the board.
I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion that we grant support of that.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion? There being none, I'll call for the vote.
Yes.
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 Yes, 4 in the affirmative, 1 absent. Motion carries.
Regarding Class 2 licenses, the board is in receipt of a Class 2 license that's been turned in by Mr. Fernando Beltran of Fernando's Auto Sales, formerly located at 381 Main Street. Mr. Beltran has vacated the premises and is no longer using his Class 2 license. To be procedurally correct, the board should vote to void the license surrendered by Mr. Beltran. Pleasure of the board?
I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Second. Discussion? There being none, I'll call for the vote.
Yes.
Abstain?
Abstain.
Yes, let the record show 2 in the affirmative, 2 abstentions, 1 absent. Motion carries.
The political calendar is up. We've received from Town Clerk Lori Kelly. It relates to the 2013 annual town meeting and election. One may register to vote at the office of the town clerk during regular business hours of 9 a.m. to 4:30 p.m., Monday through Friday, or by sending a mail-in voter registration form to the office of the town clerk at 325 Main Street, Oxford 01540. Any voter whose name or address has been changed during the year is advised to appear before the town clerk or the registrars of voters to have the information changed on the voting list. The last day and hour to register to vote before the annual town meeting and the annual town election, it's the same day, same deadline date. The deadline is April 18th, 2013. The town clerk's office will remain open on that day from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. And finally, a reminder, the annual rabies clinic will be held this coming Saturday, February 16, from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. at the town hall. Access will be at the handicap ramp at the rear of the town hall. The fee is $10 per animal, cash or check, made payable to the town of Oxford. Dogs must be on leashes and cats must be in carriers. Residents may also obtain their cat or dog licenses at the same time. The clerk's office will be open for that. Rabies certificates must be presented or your pet will receive a 1-year shot. And that ends my report for February 12th.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Selectmen's request. Mr. Lamarche?
Thank you. Well, I've written a statement that I feel so strongly about this issue, I just felt compelled to say. And I wrote this down because sometimes I don't know when to shut up, so that way there, I'll keep this short. Please bear with me. Basically, what I'd like to start by saying is service with pride. That's how I would put the service that occurred this week. The message I'd like to get across to the citizens of Oxford is that I took the opportunity to spend almost the entire snowstorm we had working with our DPW. The job they did was almost miraculous as far as I'm concerned. Working under these conditions at times, they couldn't see the road. The snow was coming down 2 to 3 inches per hour, making it blinding. These guys really take their plowing of their routes very personal. it's almost like it's their own personal driveway that they're plowing. They know everything about their route. They know where those manholes are, they know where the catch basins, they know where the expansion joints, mailboxes, etc. are located on their roads. You have to realize that these guys worked about 30 hours without getting any sleep. And they did this so that we would have the ability to drive safely on our roads and allow the schools to open precisely on time on Monday. They worked under intense conditions. When you people wake up, it's even harder for them because now they had to watch for children playing in the snowbanks and had to wait for them to get out of the snowbanks. Dogs running out in front of them, people clearing their driveways, standing there, and then, of course, the general traffic. If there was another way they could clear the road without blocking your walkway or your driveway, I know that would be the method they would use. They feel very disgruntled and they are not happy when they see you standing there aside of your road, aside of your driveway, clearing it out, and then they have to come along and push more snow back in. It doesn't make them feel good at all, but they have to make these roads accessible so that they're wide enough for us to safely travel and there's more room for the next storm. Remember, when their work is done, they personally still have to go home and clean their driveways. They're not allowed to use town equipment to go and clean their own personal area. So when they're all done these long hours, they're going home to do their own. I was able to run what they call a wing plow. It's a side plow on the larger trucks. And the purpose of that plow is to really push the snow as far off the edge of the road as possible. And as I went along like 56 and areas like that, I was just amazed by the size of the snow coming off. Sometimes it was 6-7 feet tall, and the force. I mean, you're watching the force of the snow. It's unbelievable. Anything in its way is going to get moved. So there were cases when some of those mailboxes that probably aren't secured that good, they got moved. And it's just a tremendous force. It's something you have to see. These guys don't go out trying to ruin your property. If anything, they try to do just the opposite. They avoid every possible thing they can as they are going down that street. Many of you don't make their job much easier. You go and plow the snow back in, or you snow blow, or you shovel it back into the road, and then who gets those calls saying, hey, how come my road isn't cleaned? Well, it's not the guy that did the job of putting the snow back in, it's the DPW. They handle these large vehicles with such accuracy, it's amazing. I watched them park the vehicles in the town barn when we were all done, and I am not exaggerating when I say with plows on these vehicles, 4 abreast in that building, they're parking those vehicles so you can't put your finger between the side mirrors of those vehicles. It's just amazing how accurate they are. Getting some of the trucks in the garage door where the snowplow itself gives you about a ½ inch on either side, and they get it in there without touching anything. It's just very, very amazing. So I'm very thankful to the DPW crew we have. Steve Esposito works real well with his crew, and his crew responds very well to him. They work together as a team. You don't hear any bickering. When this person needs help, you hear guys saying, okay, I'm in the vicinity, I'll come down and give you a hand, because they don't want to do what they call lose a road in a storm. They want all their roads passable at all times for emergency vehicles and any other vehicle. So to them, that is very important. So I spent about 18 hours with them firsthand, sitting there, going through this, and all I can say is thank you to them. And what I'd like to send out to a message is that if you have a complaint about the snow plowing, call me. You may not be happy with the answer I may give you, but call me. I'll be glad to discuss the issue with you because I feel that strongly that these men did a phenomenal job, always do a phenomenal job, and I can't give them a pat on the back any more than that, and I thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Vos?
I was just wanting to follow up
Okay,
on that.
yeah, follow up.
I was talking with a man yesterday, 3:00 PM, having a coffee with him. This guy never says nothing nice about anything, you know, he can be a little bit of a nag. And he said 2:30 he was going by the DPW yard, and he was impressed and amazed and grateful because he saw the boys out there washing off their trucks, taking the salts off, taking the sand off, and washing them before they made their jockey back into the garage. And, you know, with you just reading that, it seemed appropriate to say that, because this man ain't gonna say, nice job. But you know what? He was appreciative, and he's a citizen of the town, so, you know, I figure that's kudos that belong out there as
It's
well.
not, you don't hear too many of the positives. Oh, yeah. That's life, but, you know, these guys just, I was blown away, you know, I couldn't get over what they do and how good they are.
Mr. Vos?
Thank you.
Well, I think Dennis said it all as far as the DPW. I mean, you know, I think the people that know this town, have lived there for any length of time, know, you know, the type of job they do. We have probably a second to none Department of Public Works, and, you know, I have guys that work all over the state and had to go out in the storm and perform emergency services, and I had guys getting caught. I had to, you know, send wreckers out to pull two guys out of snow bankings because the roads weren't properly plowed, and it was just a mess everywhere. But in Oxford, I know at noontime on Saturday when I went down the road, it was clear pavement on Main Street. I know every road wasn't like that, but, you know, they do an excellent job. And, you know, Joe, I attended that meeting, that EOC meeting, which not too many people realize this, but we had a complete shelter set up at the high school. We had a warming station set up at the library. You know, we might have been over-prepared, but in the case of emergency, you know, we were very prepared, and that was, you know, great to see that you know, Sherry Bemis and her whole crew, everything that she's done, all the grants she's written, you know, for all the beds and all the equipment for that. You know, that was stuff that wasn't taken out of taxpayers' pockets, and we have all that equipment. And you know, you can't say enough about Sherry and the fire department and the EOC and the police department. You know, the level of preparation that took place, and I think we put it together twice, and we really haven't needed it. But, you know,
Good practice,
when we
though.
do need it,
It's there.
It's going to be something fantastic, and you know, I'm really happy about that. I have Mr. Alan Hammond in here today. He'd like to go over a couple of things as far as the Oxford 300, if he may.
Sure.
Alan, please.
That was not working.
Blame Tony.
Always blame the technology, not the person. Okay, I'm here to give you a quick update. I didn't script anything for a change, so hopefully I'll be quicker than normal. Just want to let you know, though, a couple of things are coming up real quick with the celebration. One is on May 18th, we're going to have our anniversary gala, and I'm going to pass that over to you that way. That's being hosted with Jane Banya being the coordinator, and it's being hosted through the Women's Club. It's going to be up at the Hogan Center. I believe I said the May 18th was the date. And it's $50 a person. And tickets are available now. The advertising's already started. And you only have this type of event come up once in our lifetime. And I'm actually looking forward to this, and I'm not usually big on big formal events, and this is going to be a nice event for everyone to attend, and it's modestly or affordably priced. It's just $50 a person. All right, that's one of the items. Another thing that's going to be available soon is we've got being made a coin and a pin, and passing around the pictures of that also. The top item is the pin, which bears a striking resemblance to the coin, but we tried to keep everything consistent, and they're going to be numbered. There's only going to be 300 of them. I've already had a number of requests for number one, so we're going to have to figure out some type of popularity contest on that. I know Mike and I are already arguing over that one.
I'll take number 300.
What about a lottery? Raise some money on it.
That might not be a bad idea. But we decided to incorporate, as you can see, and people will be able to see soon, we decided to incorporate the town seal and the town hall. rather than our anniversary logo, because we think those are symbols that we're gonna live on a lot longer than our nice little logo, but we felt this had a more classy impact. So, those will be available in
Is that
about a
the
month.
actual size of the pin?
No, the pin's gonna be about a 1
Or
inch.
of a, yeah,
It's gonna be a lapel pin. Then the coin will be about the size of a silver dollar.
the old
it will be
silver
a-
dollar.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes, correction, the old silver
Well,
dollar,
new
about
ones
an
are
inch and
like
a half.
quarters, right, yeah.
Yeah, the ones that are about an inch and a half in diameter, it's gonna be a polished bronze and enamel, paint on it,
Nice.
okay? I wanted to get that out. I also want to let people know that if they have any questions about what's gonna be happening, the Webster Times has already been putting out what they call teaser ads, and they're letting people know, and they're gonna continue to do ads so that people can remember to mark the dates for the celebration. The celebration's gonna be July 13th and 14th. We're gonna start off at 9 in the morning and go roughly to 11 o'clock at night on Saturday, and then noon to 7:30 on Sunday. And we've got entertainment at both the bandstand at Joslin Park and at a Main Street stage, which is gonna be one thing after another, very little free time in between, whether it's local dances or it's a jazz band, a top 40 band, we've got country, we've got something for everybody. And if you don't like what's happening at the bandstand, you're probably gonna like what's going on on Main Street. So you're gonna be able to get in a good pick. Plus, we're also gonna have entertainment on Main Street itself, like the traveling minstrel type things. We will have some of those type of events going on too. We're gonna have a magician coming in. So we're trying to get something for everybody, in addition to the game booth and the vendors that have the food, the beverages, just about everything. And one thing that's concerning us is there's a whole bunch of new rules that come into play that probably didn't exist in previous celebrations.
Thank you. I think your microphone is, I think you might have hit it off.
Turned it off.
Sorry about that. Okay. There's more rules, especially with certain fees like Board of Health application fees for vendors and stuff like that. And it's our hope, I know that in the past, with Founder's Days, when there were town fees in addition to the fees that the vendors were paying to have a booth, that the Board of Selectmen was asked to waive those fees whenever possible. So my main inquiry tonight is to ask if it would be possible for the Board of Selectmen to consider allowing any of the people that come through us to become vendors at the celebration to have those application fees waived. We're not asking them to have the regulations waived, just the fees. We know that they're gonna have to comply with the state and local laws and all of the other regulations to go with it, but to have them pay a fee on top of a fee, especially for a two-day event, might be asking a bit much, and so we're asking that the Board of Selectmen consider waiving those fees on our behalf. And then answer any questions that you may have for us also.
Okay, I guess we're gonna have to research that. I don't know if legally we can do that or not at this point, but we will definitely get back to you on that.
And inspector fees, John, how can you waive those? Because the
I know.
inspector's gotta be paid.
That's the problem. Some of these are based on paying people that actually enforce, so,
Whatever
but we
fees.
will look at it.
Okay. And does anybody have any questions for me? That was the briefest visit I ever paid. Thanks again.
Keep up the good work, Alan. Okay, we're at Selectmen's request. You have anything else, Mr. Ross?
Just to add to what Alan was saying is, all the applications for the booths are gonna be going out very quickly. We're gonna send out the applications to people who participated last year first, to give them an opportunity to do the same thing they did last year. I think it's only fair, and then probably a month later, the applications will go out to all the other nonprofits in town. And once that time period goes by, we may open it up to some for-profits to fill voids of services we feel we need. But, things are progressing nicely, and, ain't that far down the road, so anyone wants to get involved, tomorrow, right? Tomorrow at 6:30 at the senior center, and that's it.
Very good. Mr. Lamontin?
Well, I only have one thing. Yesterday, the political calendar relating to the annual town elections came out. I don't know if it's Joe who you talked to now, or if you talked to Tony. about making sure that's on the scroll. And where it did come out, I figure it's time to put it out publicly that my seat on this board after 12 years will be vacant. I'm not going to seek re-election, so if there's anybody out there who's looking to jump on board, please, I'd love to see a good person take it to work with you folks. I've enjoyed it, but enough's enough. Semi-retirement, family time, it's time to put back effort into where it's important to me right now, which is in the family and grandkids. So, come on out, folks, help us out.
Sure,
That's
it's
it.
not something I said.
Yeah, I've loved working with you, dude, you've been fun.
All those long-winded things
Yeah.
that drove away.
Yeah, you are learning how to take hints now to, keep it fast, so.
You've certainly done a great job, and I'm sure you're going to be missed.
Thank you, John, I
Sure of
appreciate
that.
it.
Anything else?
No, that's it.
I just want to echo what my colleagues have said in regards to the storm, and I don't want to go too much into detail because I think that my colleagues have said it and said it very appropriately. But I did had the opportunity to talk to people that were involved in the emergency management end of the storm. Matter of fact, I was there at the meeting with two other selectmen when we declared an emergency for the town of Oxford. That was before the storm had started on Friday. And then, once I got home, I certainly couldn't get out, but I did call the town manager the following morning, first thing, and I caught him in bed, as he was up all night long, as well as the fire chief and other emergency personnel that were headquartered at the Oxford Police Station. And they did an outstanding job monitoring everything, making sure that everything was in place for any emergency that would come up during that storm. And when I finally, I left a message for with the manager's wife to just have him call me. I didn't want her to wake him up because he was up all night. And I got a call back later that afternoon from the manager. And I said, I just wanted to touch base with you, and I called you early because I wanted to know, I wanted an update so that if there was anything that I should relay to the board, I could do that. And he said, you know what? He said, nothing. He says, we didn't have one person in the shelter. The emergencies we had were very minor, were handled very professionally, and we were there. He said, and that was it. And that's a good thing to hear, that we didn't really have to do anything serious during that storm. So it's a tribute to the manager and all the emergency personnel, highway department, and everyone who was involved in that emergency situation, because if in fact we needed them, believe me, they were there. So thank you very much for your service.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
If I could add to that, thank you both, all, for the compliments to DPW. It's not just the pride in their work. What they accomplished Friday night and early Saturday morning is they kept all the roads open. They did not lose one road.
Right.
If you needed an ambulance, we could get it to you because the roads were open. That is absolutely amazing, because there are towns around. We had school open Monday. We didn't have delay, we had school. Okay, now some people say, well, the sidewalks weren't totally plowed. I can give you a map, show you how much of the town. I came into work Monday morning and the sidewalk on Route 12 was already plowed up to Old Worcester Road. It was already plowed on Route 12. So these guys, they were plowing sidewalks during the storm as well until it got too much. But these guys are something to be proud of. It's the whole team worked together. You comment on the grants that Chief Bemis has written to get us communication equipment so that we can stay in touch. Police, fire, and not only DPW. Facilities maintenance guys were out. We kept the library sidewalk open. When we went through our third snow blower, the guys from the fire department came up to keep it open. So if you needed a warming station, you needed to be processed for shelter, it was there. We kept it available. Fortunately, we didn't need it. Nobody lost power that I know of in this town, and as a result, we didn't have a need for the shelter. But we were ready, and that's something to be proud of. And the board for taking the legislative action to adopt the emergency joint mutual aid that we did recently when we needed an emergency declaration, emergency guidelines on vehicle use during high wind. The whole thing works. Citizens of Oxford really have something to be proud of here. And I say that as, I wasn't born here, I'm a transplant, so you're lucky. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Joseph. Any other business to come before the board?
We call them imports, Joe.
Important?
We call them imports.
I'm not a transplant, okay.
Import.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Yes.
We are adjourned.
We didn't have time to put your name on it.
I think you should wear this next meeting.
Yeah.
Show your support. In the middle of your speech, you should stop and put your shirt on. Yes, absolutely. You coming?
I think it got passed down.
Yeah, it's over there.
You're a busy man. Yeah, that's fine. Okay. You're a busy guy, Alan. Should get should put your papers through. I want to hear it. Where it catches, I have to sign some stuff, huh?
Yeah, you do.
How much do I gotta sign?
Well, maybe you don't want, that's the church.
Hey, what do you mind? Yeah? Did you mention it to the most important person? Did you mention it to the most important person? You don't have the guts.